Hi everyone, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Today on John's Briefs, boy, we had one on the channel not too long ago of a Florida man. Never change, Florida man, never change. Who had a road rage incident, hops out of the car with a gun, and unbeknownst to him, the guy in the car had a gun. And I want to talk to Tim about this one, but an interesting angle on it.
To quote the great comic Patton Oswalt, the only legitimate reason to go to Florida is to ID your daughter's body. So there you go.
Wow.
There's Florida man. So with more context, that's actually funny, right?
Yeah, but the context is, wow. Okay. Wow.
To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
Should I shoot him?
Bro! Bro!
Give it.
Go!
Hey, man.
I'm telling you right now. You pull that
You were the one that started it. Hey, man.
I'm telling you right now. Give me the phone.
Get the
Bro,
out
get
your phone.
out of the car now. Pull that out of the car.
Who the are you, bro?
You're out of
Harry, you're getting arrested. You know this, right?
The whole work in front of his vehicle's all smashed up, too.
Listen, having watched the video again, I have an interesting bit here. So I said in the analysis, he should have shot that guy.
I can't imagine anybody that understands anything about defensive tactics not shooting that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
From a defensive tactics
Amen.
position.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that here at John's Briefs. We talk about legal and moral self-defense here. We talk about tactics and all that stuff on the big channel. But Tim, he said to his wife, should I shoot this guy?
I heard him say that, yes.
And so it doesn't seem that subjectively he really
felt that he
was
had.
at fear
That's correct.
at death of
That's
great
correct.
bodily harm. Do you think that statement caught on his wife's cell phone would have had him a hard time?
It wouldn't have helped, that's for sure. But then again, you could also argue that even if he was wrong, I mean, would a reasonable person have known that he needs to shoot the guy? Just because this guy was questioning that doesn't mean that the decision to shoot was wrong. It just means that he had doubt that perhaps he shouldn't have had. If he had shot the guy, and anybody would agree that any juror would have seen it and said, "Man, I just shot him sooner than that," then I think he could still be out of trouble, quote unquote. But is that going to hurt him? I mean, it'd be interesting you bring that up because I noticed it but didn't really think about it. You're absolutely correct. That could definitely hurt the case for sure.
So when we're like, can I? Should I? Must I?
If you say, should I?
We're in a middle
It's
ground.
debatable. Exactly, yeah.
We're,
So,
and he
good catch, by the way.
He showcases his mental state
Right.
that he's in should I?
Yeah.
And he's doubting. And so, okay, so you might say, well, when I asked the question, it was should I? And then I realized, my God, he's got a gun. He's going to kill me.
I would almost wonder if that was, as a guy who's been married for almost 30 years, if that was almost like weigh in. You know, I want your opinion.
Yeah.
I don't want to traumatize you by killing somebody right in front of you unless you too believe we're about to get shot. It might have been something like that. And maybe that's one explanation. I don't know, but you're right, exactly. I mean, when he said should I, then he's obviously not must I. So yeah.
Well, and maybe the better answer tactically is to use the car and get away from him, right?
Which
Just
is
drive
always
around.
The best answer. The best trigger you have is under your right foot.
Yeah, drive away from him. You know, if you hit him with the car as the guy approached, wouldn't have been a problem.
Right.
Why'd the guy get out with a gun to begin with? So from a moral and legal perspective, the second that guy got out of the car with a gun, he wasn't facing a deadly threat before that. And at that moment, so he's committing aggravated assault.
Yep.
Right there. Well, at least in
Absolutely.
Arizona, that's going to get charged as ag assault.
And it's going to be charged something comparable just about anywhere in the U.S. So
Right.
Yeah.
In Arizona, we don't have really a brandishing
There's no
charge.
brandishing charge.
Yeah, we don't have that.
It's ag assault here.
It's just aggravated assault. In many places it is.
But that's a class 3 dangerous felony, 7.5 year presumptive term. He didn't fire shots. He's going to get a better deal, but he's probably going away for 3 or 4 years for this. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
And I said on the big channel, my guess is if it's pure speculation, of course, so let's just put on our speculating hat for a minute. Why would that guy get out of the car with a gun in his hand? I'll bet you $50 that it's sitting in the console of his Mercedes and not on his person in a holster. And he goes, I'm going to get out and give that guy a piece of my mind, but I'm worried he's going to have a gun, and so I better have
bring
my own.
gun. Yep.
And so he has it in his hand. Well, I didn't point it at him. I just had it in case.
Yeah.
Friend, a handgun in your hand is a much higher threat than one in a holster.
Absolutely.
Great reason to have a holster on your person and just keep the gun. So it's, John, what's the best car holster? My favorite car holster is the one that you use to bring the gun on your person into the car.
Amen. And people don't realize if something really dynamic happens, you got to bail out of that car, and you, gosh, I wish I'd got my gun out of the holster that was on the console there in my super duper magnetic holster. Whatever. Have it on your person. The other gun that's in a safe in your car is for your unarmed friend that you totally trust. When things get really crazy, you can now arm your unarmed friend. It's not for you. Have a gun on your body.
On your person.
Yeah.
Because then the holster, your favorite car holster is also your favorite restaurant holster. It's your favorite mall holster.
That's right.
It's your favorite general use holster. Yeah. It's a much better thing. Yeah. And so interesting too that they charged this guy not just with the aggravated assault times
armed robbery.
Armed robbery.
I thought, man, I want to take that prosecutor out to lunch. Because it was, and that's not something I'd even normally think of.
Yes, and
and this guy needs to be hammered. So yeah.
A couple people in the comments were like, John, aggravated, armed robbery, what's that about? He had a gun threatening them and reached out to grab her phone.
Tried to take their property by force. That's the definition of armed robbery.
Yeah,
so,
while armed.
While armed.
And so therefore, and they charge him with battery times 2 as well. So,
that's
a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
We'll just throw those in there for fun and for profit.
In Florida, they have, in every state, we have the torts, the private torts of assault and battery. Florida calls criminal assault battery. Arizona, we call criminal battery assault. It's the same thing. So.
Yeah, whether those words mean the same thing. A lot of states have combined the words assault and battery, and Florida
called it either assault or battery.
Either one or the other, depending on which one we're in. Because Florida, let's be as confusing as possible. And I've seen other states that do that similarly too, which is why here's an interesting thing, in part of that. As a guy that does expert witness work all over the country, one of the first things I'll tell attorneys is, okay, I need to go and review the statutory law because it might be a little different.
Yeah.
I know Florida pretty well, which tells you Floridians the problem of use of force in Florida. If I know Florida law
it's
pretty
spilled
well.
over to you pretty well, yeah.
I know Texas law pretty well because you Texans are goofballs about it. I know Arizona law really well because I live here. But every state's a little different on that. I think from a legal perspective, I would have made the argument that this guy from a position of this gun down here could just literally bring it up and fire a shot in a quarter second.
People forget that action always beats reaction. So if I have to perceive that he's starting to bring the gun up, I have to react to that after I've perceived that and then still get my shot off, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, I'm either playing cards with Hitler or with Gandhi here in a few minutes. I don't really want to find that out right now. So a tie is a loss.
Yeah, either one of those cribbage games are a game you lost.
Yeah.
And him having a gun in hand, it doesn't matter if he pointed it at you. He's threatening you with that gun. He's threatening you with that gun, and therefore you are under a reasonable fear of imminent death.
That's right.
Or grievous bodily injury.
And the gun doesn't even have to be in your hand. It can still be holstered. Would a reasonable person feel threatened with deadly force by what this person's doing?
Yeah.
If I'm going, oh yeah, you don't want to give me the money in the cash register? I'm pointing at the gun in my that I would feel threatened by that. I think that's a legitimate threat of lethal force. So
100%.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be in your hand. But clearly, like John said, when it's in your hand, a quarter second, maybe even less. You don't. There's no way you can outdraw that. So you have to act and not plan on reacting. So
yes, and I don't think in the gunshine state, I don't think any prosecutor in the gunshine state is going to give you a hard time about shooting that guy.
I haven't heard that one. I love it. Yeah.
And
if the prosecutor's going to throw an armed robbery on there, he's being pretty favorable to the guy in the van. So yeah.
A lot of their sheriffs, depending on the county they're in Florida, they don't play.
What's that? I can't remember the sheriff's name, but he's very. If you break into a house in my county, by God, you're going to get shot.
Yeah. So there's those fun games.
Yeah.
So I think he showed remarkable amounts of restraint.
In fact, let's be very honest about it. Inappropriate, unenviable levels of restraint. Right? So, because thank God it worked out, and we're having this conversation. And nobody got shot. I'm surprised.
I am surprised.
And you don't play to the surprise. You play to not being surprised. So that's how you stay alive. But
there's an interesting bit there for us all to remember that when our spouse decides, let's get video of this guy to send it to the cops. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's very smart. If we say, hey, wait a minute, this guy's road raging us, trying to run us off the road, all these things. I've got video evidence of that. That's very powerful in our modern system. Since we caught him on film saying, should I shoot this guy? And he opted not to, and nobody got shot. I think it helps his case. It shows his restraint.
Shows great restraint. Yeah. So, but man, I'm surprised. I'm surprised he didn't get shot.
Yeah, so, I am too. But just watch. When somebody puts that recording on, Watch what you say.
One thing I want to make sure everybody understands too is that they charged him with 2 counts of assault. Well, that's because there's 2 victims. There's 2 people having guns pointed at them. They charged him with 2 counts of armed robbery and 2 counts of assault, or 2 counts of battery rather. Why? Why are they piling on those charges? Well, that's because that way he'll go to prison longer. Nah. If he was convicted on all 6 of those, and he won't be because they'll plead it out, but if he was convicted on all 6 of those, the terms will be served concurrently. Yeah. Okay?
All at the same
it's
time.
very rare that we do consecutive. In Arizona, really the only time you see consecutive sentences is in violent crimes against children. And then they just start racking them up. And then you're convicted of 8 counts, 5 years per count. You're going to do hard 40 years in prison. That's rare. That's usually by statute, and usually where it's crimes against children, especially sexual crimes against children.
Yep. Unless you live in Michigan and you get a felony firearm charge.
Yeah, there you go. In this case, he's going to do what prosecutors call plead to the lead. So he's going to end up pleading to the ag assault, I would imagine. He's probably looking at, I would guess, 3 to 5 years in prison, probably something like that.
So that's where that's going to end up, is that the plead to the lead. So the prosecutor goes, I get you with all these, and I do that on purpose because your defense attorney knows, okay, what's going to happen here is that eventually you're going to have to plead guilty to a single charge of aggravated assault, and you're going to go do 3 years in prison. You'll probably get out of that on the matrix after about 2, and then do the rest on community, probation, and you've lost your firearms rights. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, then you're going to go to trial for all of them, and the jury might give you all of them.
Yep.
And that's stupid because then you're going to just pay $250,000 and do the time.
Right.
So you're going to end up pleading to that. But I don't feel like I did anything wrong.
And this is the guy that's going to do that. This is the arrogant guy who's driving the $300,000 Mercedes, who's going to say, I did nothing wrong. This guy cut me off in traffic, and I just had that gun to make sure I wasn't going to get shot. And he's going to go all the way to trial. He's going to spend $250,000, and he's going to go do way more time in prison. And that's, you know what? Arrogance has a cost. And this guy was being an arrogant jerk. I mean, again, not that if you drive a really nice car, that makes you an arrogant jerk, but I think there might be a percentage of folks that fall into that category. And this guy certainly did in his salmon-colored polo shirt and his gun and his attitude. He's going to learn really quick that that's not the way to go through life. And he's got a hard lesson ahead of him.
Yeah, but I mean, on the positive side, he'll save some money over the next couple of years because he can let his golf club membership go. And so
He can let that lapse.
Going to let that lapse.
Maybe sell that Mercedes, put that towards the legal defense costs.
Put that towards that. And so there's our final reminder on this. Again, we talk about legal and moral self-defense here at Active Self-Protection Extra. If you are a firearms owner, you bring the capability of death with you wherever you go. And therefore, you must act in good, sane, sober, moral, and prudent ways.
Amen.
Now, you must at least act in lawful ways. Lawful is less standard, okay? So you can be stupid and yet be lawful. But our call is instead, here's a big one, gun on, ego off.
Yep.
If you're around a firearm, you cannot have an ego. You have to let the road rage go. You have to just, okay, go ahead, have a nice day.
If carrying a gun makes you more likely to get into an argument, then you better not carry a gun.
Yeah,
it should make you exactly the opposite. I am fat. My wife is being very rude. Can I please pay for your dinner? Okay, I didn't do anything wrong at all. This guy just insulted my wife and spilled his tomato sauce on my pants. I'm going to apologize for that. I'm going to pay for his meal. I'm going to leave because I don't need the confrontation because I have a gun on. And like John says, that adds this level of responsibility and the capability of inflicting death. And you, by God, better take that seriously. And you better be more polite. And like John said, gun on, ego off. I've never heard it put that way. I'm going to steal that as well. I steal all of his sayings. That's a great way of putting it. You just can't do that.
When you hear as a firearms owner, do no harm, but take no crap. Wrong.
Yeah, wrong.
Do no harm.
Take a lot of
and
crap.
be willing to take a lot of crap so that you don't end up in jail, so that you don't end up taking a life that you don't need.
Let me take another analogy that my friend here, here's the martial arts expert, will understand. He is going to be less likely to get in a fist fight.
Oh, big time.
Because he knows that if he gets in a fist fight, somebody's going to get hurt way more likely than if I get in a fist fight with somebody. Okay, so it's not the whole back off, my hands are lethal weapons. I mean, every time somebody says that, I start laughing.
Yes.
But if you find somebody that's got black belts in martial arts, they've never been in a fight, or they've been in one fight when they were 17 years old because they realize how to avoid fights. They have the confidence to know they don't need to get into a fight yet, and so they're able to avoid that fight and the next fight and the next fight after that. They have restraint, they have knowledge, they have capabilities that they don't have to use to prove it, and that's the same as carrying a gun. It gives you that edge that not carrying a gun doesn't give you, and it also gives you that responsibility. And if you can't accept that or understand that, don't carry a gun.
I always say as a guy that, 16 years of empty-handed skills training, and I got in all my fist fights before I started training in martial arts.
Exactly. But don't you agree with what I just said?
Yeah,
It's the
absolutely.
expertise and knowledge that keeps you from having a fist fight.
They all scared the crap out of me, and teenage, high school stuff, right? And man, I got out of that game. I started training with my hands, and then you realize, oh man, now I have the capability that I could actually hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Or if somebody knows what they're doing and they attack me, they can actually really hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get in that kind of fight. I'd rather just, hey, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm ugly and I'm wrong. Let me buy you a beer. Or,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I went to Costco yesterday with my wife and my best friend. And we're pulling in there. Of course, people want to fight over parking spots at Costco.
We want to walk another 20 yards. wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
well, and I mean, it's a Sunday afternoon. We're filming this on a Monday, so it's a Sunday afternoon. Costco's hopping, man. It's the place to be. And like dudes get in arguments over parking spots, and I'm like, nah, it's fine. You want that one? All right, buddy. And I even literally I had my window down, and I rolled by a guy, and he kind of came in hot. Like, oh, he was going to take that spot and was mad that I had gotten there maybe a skosh before him. And I was just like, no, kept on going. And I looked at him and I was like, you win. And
Victory to you.
yeah, you win, dude.
I've
All yours.
defended people that got into gunfights over parking spaces.
Yeah.
And you say that, you can't believe those words are coming out of your mouth, but people lose their non. I mean, it's something about getting in a car.
Plenty of rights worth dying for. The right of way ain't one of them.
Amen.
And so be a good person. Let's not do this. Watch what you're saying. Use deadly force if you have to.
Only if you have to.